Fala galera, today I'm going to make another match commentary. This one, as you guys can see, is in English too because I made 3 Portuguese in a row, 3 videos in a row. Now I will make 2 in English to compensate. I usually going to make 5 videos a week, so 3 in Portuguese, 2 in English. So yeah, I will make this second one in English and then my next one will be in Portuguese, and then I will start alternate again. This is five, four, round four. Um, it was against my friend Christian Thomas, which was really unfortunate that we play each other, especially that soon in the tournament. And yeah, that was it. So I will commentate a little bit about this match. Let me. Oh, this is lagging a lot. Let me take a second so this stop lagging this much. So yeah, I drew 0 hand traps. Like, this is your standard combo experience where you pretty much need something. If you don't have something, you straight up lose. That's why, I mean, you guys are aware of the fact that I kind of dislike playing combo mirrors. This feels like a combo mirror because I'm playing with a deck that didn't draw any hand traps, which is most of the time when you play combo. So I really dislike this feeling. And I try to avoid that. I mean, it happened right now, but it is unlikely. I had 12 hand traps in this. So, yeah, this is pretty much over. I'm just let him play to get some information from the cards he plays and cards he have. One thing that I have to give a disclaimer about this, because this will matter, it is both of us knew the exact content of each other's decks because we talk a lot with each other. So he knew my deck, I knew his. So, and that will matter in this matchup. I let him play a little bit because I want to see how he's comboing. Like that, I didn't know for sure. But at this point, I'm 1,000% sure that I already lost. So I let him combo a little bit, which pretty much doesn't change anything. So yeah, he did display pass. This is over. So he has this, has calamities and chooch and Guinglong and Maester Ash, and like impossible to come back from this. So yeah, that's over. It was a very fun dragon indeed. So, okay, now I can start commentating the match. So I drew a good hand besides that lord. I already made my profile, and in that I talked about that I played one lord. In that event I did play one lord in all my previous LCSs, and it was fine. I think this time it's probably the first time that I think that was wrong, and because the rise of Elvish, usually in the other LCSs I was like the only Elvish in the tournament. Like, not many people were playing Elvish, but now there are many people playing Elvish. Probably no, for sure the most popular engine. So maybe I should have played 2. It backfired only one match, but I think it was in one match that I would have already lost, so I guess it's fine. And there was one point that I disagree with a lot of players, especially good players, that says drawing Lord is not that bad. I think drawing Lord is fucking awful. I mean, look at this. I can compensate this a little bit, like I can land discard Lord. This is pretty much what I will do, but I really dislike drawing Lord. Probably it's worse because I play 1, but still, I really dislike it. So I will do the play like this. I will Nadir and get the Ecclesia, summon Ecclesia, and get the punishment. And I will, to get the maximum value of all my cards. And this Ecclesia is pretty much pointless, doesn't do anything, especially because this Ash Dragon is not going to get Fleur, it's going to get a Maximus because I set out Fleur because Fleur is awful in this matchup. So this is nothing. So I have to lord something, either land or Ecclesia. So I decide to kill the Ecclesia here, and then I set cards and I pass. I could have summoned Lord, by the way, but it doesn't. I don't think it makes much sense to summon the Lord. He played a little bit better around Ash, but he doesn't have Ash, because if he had, he would have used here. So the Ash has to be the top deck. So I could have played around a little bit of Ash by like bring Lord now and send this land, but I decided not to. And I got the Maximus in the end phase. So here I have like Conquistador, Punishment, and Ash, which usually okay against this deck. So he uses Conlong, the city, get the trap, use Curing, which is odd, because he knew, I mean, he kind of knew about my Conquistador, so this is a super easy Conquistador to use, I think. So I did that. He was probably baiting. Maybe he had to choose to lose something. I mean, I'm not expecting Virtual World, so I'm not trying to super commentate on what he's doing, because I will probably say a lot of things wrong. I mean, I know much more than standard of this deck, but like, he's a really good player, so definitely will be reasons that I'm not aware of. Like, you can't be an expert in every single deck. I'm really competent in Virtual World and I'm really good in English, but it's not the same thing. So yeah, I used this, discard the card, and then he had the King Long. This is pretty much the reason that he did that, right? So he used the King Long, and this is the easiest Ash ever. So I use Ash. I still have the punishment, and he used the DT to draw. So he drew here and think a little bit and pass. So he is interesting, right? Okay, this is a really important point. So why this happened, right? There's some reasons why this happened. Maybe even if he had, now I have to read the text of his hand. I know two cards. I know, what's the name? Lily and Lulu, right? I know those two. So 3 cards are unknown, and 2 cards were drew after things happen, right? So 2 cards were drew of this, and then he decided to pass. So, and those were cards. If he had a GG or a la, he probably wouldn't try to play. It is weird because he know the punishments, right? So it made sense for him to pass here and do nothing and try to do again when he had all the effects available again. So I drew this Conquistador, which was one of the worst possible draws in my deck, because I already have both Conquistador and Vaquero available because of land and the Sanguine. And by the way, leaving land was good because of that. Now I can have both. I mean, I will have both because I drew Conquistador anyway, but still. I can't kill him. I think the most I can do is a Phoenix and then Lord back and then Maximum Summon. So this is 69, which is not enough. I could easily win this turn, right? Like if this Conquistador was a tanky or Zoo, most of the Zoos, right? I could have killed him now, I guess. So a little bit unfortunate here. So yeah, it's fine. Then there is not much I can do. I got another Conquistador, I think. No, I got the Vaquero and set Conquistador with this one. And since I have no way to kill him, I'm not going to commit to Maximus. But this is an interesting scenario. Again, I have to read the texture of his hand. Like, how is he passing? Why is he passing? He could have drawn same of the multiple of the same card, which is a possibility. He maybe had another different virtual words, but it wasn't worth it to try to play knowing that I had punishments. So maybe that was another reason. And one reason that I super play around here was the fact that I was aware that he played evenly, and I went first this game, and I went first this game, and he 1000% would have a evening in his list in the scenario. So I had the option. It was possible. Maximus is really good in this matchup. I had the option to, for example, if this was game 1, I would have done that. Would be summon Maximus and use effects. He sends whatever, and I send NTs and Omega, and I kill this and then Omega this. So make his life a little bit more difficult to have a card, because then he would, if he doesn't have another face-up card like Spell and Trap face-up card, he has to summon a monster, then he summons a monster and show a Virtual Word and a Chain Conquistador. Like, it makes his life harder. I would have done that normally, but this is why I talk so much about texture and context. Like, this is a prime scenario where I can't play normal here. What's normal? Normal is take out my opponent's resources as much as I can. But I kind of can't do like this, because this smells like evening. Like, it was a real possibility that the 2 cards that he drew or his draw phase could be an evening. It's not that difficult. The odds are decent enough. So I had to hard play around Evelyn here, because I insta lose to Evelyn, right? Like, look at this. So I decided to leave this on the board, which is weird because I know Lulu, and I know Lily. So, but I had the read. So yeah. So what happened here is that first thing he do is Lulu, and I don't know if that was a mistake, because think like this. Using this Lulu is the best one, right? He knows the Conquista. The fact that he used Lulu right away, the first thing, is a huge head flag in my head, because he's smart, he's not dumb. He knows what he's doing. Using the best card, knowing that I had a Conquistador, sounds so like that he wants me to Conquistador, because it sounds like a good spot for Conquistador. So maybe against other players that would work. People would be like, okay, thank you, and then go Conquistador. But then, if he used another effect that wasn't Lulu, then I would have thought about maybe he doesn't have Evelyn. But then when he used Lulu, I said, okay, this has to be a Evelyn. This makes no sense. Why would he do this so early? This, like, he's really screaming for me that he wants this to die. Again, that would work 95% of the time, I think. But I think maybe his mistake here, and I think he probably agrees. I don't know exactly if he could have done things differently. Again, not a virtual word expert, but if he did a way, that would probably be better, because it would have given me a higher chance to kill this Kinglong if he used another effect. But using Lulu here is really weird. I don't know, it's just like last game when he didn't use Red Dice Fusion. Like, it sounds off. This is off. This is definition of off. Like, in my head, when something like this happened, I say, okay, something's up. Like, something's weird is happening. This is not common. This is not off. Because I play this type of scenario so much that, like, it probably a subconscious thing going on that I can't even properly explain. But this is not how this is supposed to be played, and because this is the best card and I already have the answer. So the fact that he used right now, and I know that he's not bad, because if I play someone that in the other scenarios of this game played really bad, then okay, this is probably the possibility that this guy is throwing the game away, right? But the fact that he used here is really weird. But for him, it's not a bad scenario if you really think about it, because this either I use Conquistador and then Evelyn win, or I don't use Conquistador and then he summons Lulu. Like, it's not that bad. But if his main intention is to even, then is a little worse. But maybe he evaluate here that it wasn't that bad of scenario if it didn't work again. I think, right? So maybe that's what happened. So I fought here, and then I said, okay, this sounds like a evening. This smells like a evening. This, I don't know. So I have to. This is a type of scenario that I insta lose for Evelyn. I know he plays Evelyn, which makes a lot of sense. Maybe if I didn't know that he played Evelyn, I would have died for his Evelyn because I would most likely use this Maximus earlier. So yeah, he used that and get another card, send the trap again, right? So here, he summons this. Again, super sketchy. Super sketchy. Because now it sounds again that he's trying to even me. Because when he summons this, what I thought, okay, what's he trying to achieve here? The first thing that I thought was he's trying to go for Break Sword, and Break Sword pop this, try to pop something, go battle, attack with the Break Sword into my Golden Lord, and then Evelyn. That's what I thought. And spoiler, this is exactly what he was trying to do. So that's why I'm super advocate of technical play. I kept saying this every single video, and I will keep saying this because this is the definition of how this matters so much. And the technical play is not only about how you play your own cards. You have to be really knowledgeable about other people's decks. That's why it's so time consuming and so difficult, because you have to know really well what you're doing, and you have to know fairly well what everyone else is doing. And that's really time consuming and difficult because you have to have knowledge of a lot of really different things at the same time. So yeah, so here, like, this is not a super common line to think, right? Like, break sword, pop your own card, and crash then evenly. So this is most likely what he was trying to do here. So I said okay, because if someone's break sword, I kill the break sword. So his go Lily, and I said okay, I think is and target a monster, yeah, Onya. So here I thought okay, I think it's fine for me to kill this because he's summoning a 6, right? So if he wants to go for break sword, I still had the punishment, right? So I feel like my win condition, it is through not getting super evenly here and make his life harder and harder and harder to evenly me. So I use Conquistador and I kill that, and then the card stay in hand, then he use GG. So this is the last one. No, he still has possible Aula in hand. So he used GG here. On Lulu, I don't remember what it did. I think I use, yeah, I think I use it, which makes sense, I think. So I use this and send the Omega. There's nothing kinda to say, like, I'm not killing this card. Like, I could have sent any T's here. I mean, it would be really bad, but I mean, it was a possibility, which was really bad. So I just use this Omega for next turn in case I don't insta-lose here. And then now, if he has a Evelyn, I'm getting Evelyn, right? There is no way I'm not getting Evelyn. Because, I mean, if it's only GG, it's fine. He already normal. I don't remember. Oh no, he did. Sorry. Yeah, I still not sure if I'm getting Evelyn or not. So he used the last one, Alau. I wasn't aware he had Alau. It was a possibility, of course. So I know GG and I know, what's the other one? Lily. I know GG, Lily in here, and a possible Evelyn in the other two. So he used Lau. Oh, yeah, I was thinking if I used Wakedo before, but he had 2 monsters, so it wasn't worth it. So he sent something and bring the Lulu. I don't know if you bring the other one. Yeah, I used the Wakedo, and that was fine, I think. And the banish. And then here it is possible for him to make the break sword Evelyn play. But see how expensive I make this Evelyn be. Like, the Evelyn will happen. This is going to happen, as you guys can see. Like, he's going to decrease with the trap, the Lau, and then make the break sword, and then do the play that I mentioned, like that. Use the effect and kill the Link Spider, and then, like, Yeah, and I even said I knew I have Evelyn, and he realized that I knew. Uh, so he crashed, and before end of battle, I used the Sanguine to keep engrave and brought Ash, and then I got Evelyn. So it is a good way to show that this game, I this is the type of game that I call the rewarding ones, because this is the type of Yu-Gi-Oh that I like. Like my decision making really impact the outcome of this match. Not like game one, for example, and sometimes other matches, even with this deck, that sometimes happen. So I kept the Lord, like I kind of have to, since my deck it is really, like especially in this hand, really dependent on what's the name, the Outlish cards, especially since I used this already. Um, yeah. So here I know two cards in hand, GG, Lin Li, and one unknown, right? I'm even curious which one it was. It was a Lightning Storm. Oh, so I even play around Lightning Storm too. Lightning Storm was another possibility of a card that he could have had. So yeah, it was really good in that scenario, right? I kind of play around both of them at the same time. I knew he played Lightning Storm too, but I was uh, more worried about the Evelyn. So here he kind of passed because, yeah. And here I needed to draw a monster, like, because he has 5 and I have 4 here. There was a lot of things that I could draw. All Nadirs, all Tankies, Blade, what else? Blade and Whiptail. So what drew Whiptail? Reward. So yeah, I drew a monster here, and that was game. Yeah, that I think that was a really good game. It was a scenario where I talk a lot about how sometimes you can't super play around things, but sometimes you have to, and this is the type of scenario that you kind of have to. It's really hard to say, okay, here you have to play around, here you have to ignore. This really depends on uh, context, which depends, just depends. So here, my hand, I think it's a good hand, above average. Not an insane, completely absurd hand, but above average. Macer and Ash are good. And one kid is fine, but I have a Cyclone and a Zoo, so it's good. So he used that to show like easiest Ash of my life. He used Teleport and bring Lulu and go for this. Usually this means he needs to draw something. So he drew here and set one and pass. So here I think this draw was fine. So I used Blade here, and I drew another card. I think it's fine to use, like, not playing around Ogre or something. So I used the effect. I have to mention, I didn't Cyclone, right? Because there is not much he can have set. This is really likely a trap, or possible the spell, the Queen Long. And this was kind of a mistake on my part, because I changed my mind mid-play, because I decided to Cyclone this after some the Zoo, which is a mistake. Like, there is really, it's almost no punish to that in this matchup, but I mean, it's definitely a mistake. I mean, because if I was going to Cyclone, which I did, because my first thought was, okay, this is a trap, so I don't need to Cyclone. I go Zeus and keep the Cyclone. This is what my first thought. But then I thought, maybe this is a King Long set. And if this is a King Long set, it's kind of weird, because then I'm forced to Macer, right? But even then, I think it was probably better to not Cyclone, thinking back. So I think that was a mistake. And I think I started doing the right play, then at mid-play I got a little scared, the fact that it could be a spell set as a bluff for me to have the intention to Zeus, which is usually what's going to happen. So yeah, I think that was a little bit of a mistake. So I use this, equip, and I'm going to attack directly. And then I use the Cyclone, because at this point I was like, oh, maybe this is a fucking King Long. And then if it's King Long and I'm forced to Mace it, I can Mace something else, I can miss Nya, I can miss the trap. So yeah, I used the Cyclone, it was the trap, and I was like, ah, fuck. So yeah, I should have used the Cyclone. Like, I had two options. I either use Cyclone or not. If I don't use Cyclone, I don't use the Cyclone and go for my Zeus plays and try to kill this face down like that. If I intend to use the Cyclone, I have to use before the sum of the Zoo. Like, makes no sense to do in the way that I did, right? I mean, it didn't backfire, it's really hard. So I set the Waquero before I make the Zeus in case of Nibiru, because if Nibiru's, I use the effect to just send this Waquero and make him a Sanguine, which is much better than a Waquero. I'm closer to my win condition, right? So that's why I set Waquero and then I make Zeus. So little things that can matter. So here he didn't do anything, and then I said okay. So I use Nadir and send Ash Dragon and get the Ecclesia, and then I summon the Ecclesia and get the trap. And then I set the trap and I try to go to end phase Nibiru's, which we already talked about this. He said he should have used this after the resolution of Nadir, right? Which makes sense because I couldn't summon the Ecclesia, so I wouldn't have the punishment. So yeah, that definitely would be better. I don't know how different this game would be because of that, but it would be better because now I have a punishment, and in that case, if you use Nibiru on the search of the Ecclesia, I wouldn't. I don't fault him too much about this because this is a really weird interaction. Like, I never seen this. I never experienced this before. Like, you have to Nibiru before the summon of Ecclesia to avoid the Ecclesia to be summoned. Like, I never experienced this, and probably he didn't as well. So, especially because both sides, there is less likelihood to get Nibiru. He kept Nibiru because he said the other card was worse, which makes sense. Like, this Nibiru was good here. So yeah, the problem was that I got the punishment and I got a fucking huge token, right? My token was really big, and at this point, in my perspective, I said, okay, this is the defend the token type of thing, right? He was 65, 58, which is a lot. So, and then I got a Dragon into maximum, so I had to follow up. This is kind of a follow up, this is good enough. So here I can't lose completely control of the game. So he summoned this and bring the other one back. He has Lulu, right? I would have probably lose if he Nibiru's before, looking back. But yeah, it wasn't too obvious, I think. And then I used the punishment. He had the Lulu in hand, but he kind of couldn't use it, and his Drew was Ash, because he would have Ashed this if he had it already. So yeah, that was it. Like, my token is insanely big, and yeah, that was enough. So yeah, it was an interesting game, especially game 2. Yeah, like, there is a lot. I really rather play against Virtual World and Drytron than it was playing against Infernoble and Dragon Link before. The main difference is that they are kind of a combo deck in a way that you have to stop whatever they are trying to achieve, because if they do whatever they are trying to achieve, you kind of lose. So you have to stop that with most likely hand traps. So that maintains. But the amount of hand traps that you, in average, need is way less than you needed against Dragon Link and Inferno. Those decks, especially because of Link Cross, were super resilient against hand traps, and that was a huge problem, because you needed 2, sometimes 3 hand traps to stop them, and because of that, I needed to play way more hand traps. Against those two, you usually need, sometimes 1 hand trap's enough. This game, I stopped him with only 1 Ash. Usually, many times 1 hand trap's enough, but most of the time 2 hand traps is enough. Like, unless really premium hands that those decks can draw, like, it can happen. Like, they can have Dryton can have a hand with Buntain, Alpha, a lot of things, and then 2 hand traps might be not enough. But besides the premium hands, 2 hand traps are most likely going to stop them, which I think is the biggest amount of acceptable power level of a combo deck. But what's the upside of those decks? It's not like when you stop them, you win the game. They are what I call grind combo. Like they are combo decks because in a sense that they make a play, you lose. But they don't lose when they get stopped, which is different than Dragon Link, for example. Like if you use 2 3-hand traps on Dragon Link, they wasted half of the extra deck, and then gets really hard for them to take back the control of the game because they can't do the same. They can try to do the same thing that he was trying to do first again because they depend on the extra deck to do that. Infernoble was less than that because Infernoble is better against hand traps than Dragon Link was, but it's kind of similar. Less, but kinda. But Drytron and Virtual World are really different. Like you usually negate alphas and Lulus and cards like that, and they stay somewhere in hand or grave, so they still exist. So that's why you can't side out Elvish like I did before against the other combos in those combos because I have to stop them, and now let's grind. That's how the matchup goes. Like you have to stop it and then grind. So it is not as if you stop them, you pretty much win like it was before. I prefer playing against something like this than something like it was before because I need to the dependency that I have in random outcomes, which is drawing hand traps. I don't need to draw as many, so I'm less dependent on chance, on luck, or whatever. So that's why I think it's a big difference on how those decks are. They get the upside of not insta-lose when they get stopped, which is a big upside, but it is different. It is different, and it's not super common way to have a combo. Usually the last combos that we have, they are super strong against hand trap, but doesn't have a lot of push afterwards. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys like it, and until next time, bye.